This week on Previews World Weekly, the world of Wakanda comes to Disney Plus. We figure out how we feel about a Comic-Con cruise ship experience, and we challenge you to tell us without telling us that you're a nerd. It's all happening right now on Previews World Weekly.
What's up, everybody? It's Wednesday. It's New Comic Book Day, which means it's time for Previews World Weekly. I'm one of your hosts, Troy Jeffrey Allen.
I'm your other host, Ashton Greenwood, aka the Duchess of Free Comic Book Day, and this is your weekly reminder to not forget August 14th is our date for Free Comic Book Day this year.
There you go. Also, don't forget March 18th, a day that will live in infamy. I don't know. I don't know if you really necessarily care about this, Ashton, but that was my segue to talk about the Justice League Snyder Cut that's officially coming to HBO Max. This is a big deal for a lot of people, actually. It's kind of been a long time in the running. I'm curious if are you at all curious about the Justice League movie? Like, do you want to experience this 4-hour Snyder Cut that's about to come out?
So I will be fully transparent in saying I have no desire to watch it all in one sitting.
Right.
If I do, I'm interested. I'll say that I am interested, but I'll likely have to watch it over the course of a couple days because I just don't care enough to do it all in 4 hours.
Right.
But yeah, I'm definitely interested because I remember seeing like the original Justice League or whatever, regular Justice League, bad Justice League, whatever you want to call it, in the theaters. And feeling like there was a lot of hype, and then like everyone else left like, what the hell did I just watch? Like, what was that?
Man.
And there is this distinct feeling that it was supposed to be something else. So I'm interested to figure out what that something else is. I don't know that it needs to be 4 hours of something else, but here we are.
Yeah. I actually I like the distinction of Snyder Cut and bad Justice League. Bad. Which is kind of how I felt after I walked out of the movie theater. I was really puzzled by the critics who were calling it it seemed like they were kind of giving it like this almost beleaguered positive review when it first came out, it's good, like that sort of thing, and it's just like it wasn't. And look, I like Joss Whedon, but at the same time, there's a reason that his name is not on that movie. He did some work for hire. He came in, did his part, and he left, but his name's not on it for a reason.
I have to be completely honest in saying, like, the impact of that movie was so minimal on me that I honestly cannot recall what the plot of it was, like, at all.
Well, I can tell you what the plot was. Just watch Avengers 2012. It's the same.
All right, cool, dude. Got it.
It's the exact same plot. I mean, that's kind of the problem is Whedon kind of came in and just kind of used the same bag of tricks to tell the same story twice. I am curious about it. I'm curious about it mostly because, I'm a big fan of, the intent of the artist, the intent of the author, that carries a lot of weight with me. And I feel like, Zack Snyder, he's kind of robbed of an opportunity. And I did not love Man of Steel. I've come around to the director's cut of Batman versus Superman. I think it's interesting. I'd say about 75% of it is really good. And that last 25%, which is actually the last quarter of the film, is kind of like, what am I watching? It feels like, I don't know if you've ever seen the Injustice video games, like the DC Injustice video games. The last quarter of that movie is like the DC Injustice video game. Like, it feels like I'm watching someone play a video game. So it just doesn't really work for me. I'm excited. I'm very curious what's going to come out of this. Like, I think that this episode is kind of called "The Snyder Cut Fans Get the Last Laugh," but we really won't know until March 18th, to be perfectly honest.
Right.
But going into it, like, people were openly stating that, like, there is no Snyder Cut, and after Justice League came out, they was like, it doesn't exist, like, you guys need to give it up. And like, people just don't know there's a Snyder Cut, we want to see it.
Right.
And then eventually the actors in the movie were like, no, there's a Snyder Cut, like, it does exist. And so that made me instantly more curious about it. And so but I'm with you. I probably will watch it in breaks. Like, I'll probably tag out like about halfway through and then tag back in.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah. 4 hours.
I saw though that there's okay, I didn't read this, so you might know, and please correct me before everyone gets irate about it, but there's like a Jared Leto Joker situation, maybe.
Yes,
All
yes.
right, and it's
Actually,
also rated
yeah.
R, which I saw that too, which it probably should be.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been I feel kind of weird about R-rated superhero movies. Like, I was not a big fan of Logan. I think it makes sense for Deadpool, but I kind of sometimes question the crowd that wants R-rated comic book superhero, R-rated superhero movies, I should say. Like,
I'm going to
I feel
disagree
some kind
because,
of way about it.
but superheroes are about like if you watch a comic book, they're like, or watch a comic book, read a comic book, they're like getting in fights and beating people up and destruction of property. And on some
Right,
level,
yeah,
murder, although, Batman doesn't seem too keen on that. But it's like the activities that superheroes participate in would, in any other circumstance, be R-rated.
Yeah, but see, and this is like, we could really get into this, but this is actually my problem with the Zack Snyder approach to DC characters, I should say, because
Okay.
Kick-Ass, Deadpool, those are R-rated superhero movies, and I love both of those. But I think that, like, there's a kind of like a, it's the Justice League. Like, I can't even put it even any other way. Like, it's the Justice League. Like, it's supposed to be a fun experience. It's supposed to be upbeat, and I feel like Zack Snyder was getting to that point. At least I hope so, with the Justice League movie. But watching Man of Steel, like, it really does not give you much hope that that's where he was going. Like, it's so, and that is rated PG-13, but it's so ugly. You know what I mean? And like, so, and there's elements of it that feel mean-spirited. And like, I just know, me personally,
right.
I get that, like, Batman is the cynical character, but Wonder Woman is a character of hope. You know what I mean? And Superman is a character of hope. You know what I mean? And those characters, Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, they're supposed to balance each other out. So when the entire universe goes in the Batman direction and then cranks it up to an R rating on top of that,
right?
It's just a little strange. It just feels a little off to me. And like, I think that, and there's an argument can be made for like consequence-free violence in movies. Like, Marvel's gotten a lot of flack for this, like, like not showing like the tragic end result of every violent act. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I'm like, I don't want that from superhero movies.
No.
I don't want to feel bad about superheroes. You know what I mean? Like, that's not what I really come there for. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. I'm hoping that, hey, Jason Hill, in my opinion, Dawn of the Dead is Snyder's best movie. I could see that. It's actually a fun film. I like 300. I actually like Watchmen. Speaking of R-rated superhero movies, it makes sense to me that Watchmen is an R-rated superhero movie.
See, that's when you explain it that way and you find where the line is, I'm more on board with like, okay, maybe you should keep it PG-13 with what people expect out of superheroes. I have a feeling Johnny's going to ask us to keep it pushing soon, so I want to come back to the Joker thing. What is happening there?
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, we got totally sidetracked. So I guess he originally intended, and this is kind of murky, so like, don't get mad at me, internet, if I misquote or anything like this. He originally intended to have a scene with Jared Leto and Harley Quinn in the Justice League movie, and there's a whole back and forth about whether or not it was originally in the script and he's just adding stuff to his original cut, or if this is something that, like, like it was originally intended to be in the book, in the movie itself. So we'll see. I mean, I'm curious to see how it fits. Like, I mean, something could be said for, the overindulgent director, right? Which people have accused Zack Snyder of being before. Look, I like Sucker Punch, and that's him being very indulgent. You know what I mean? Yeah, we'll see. I'm not ready to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I kind of like, yeah, it's his vision. He came into this with a vision. I want him to see his vision out. And if anything, if the Batman vs Superman director's cut has proven anything, it's that there's some interesting ideas in what Zack Snyder was trying to accomplish. So there you go. And right on cue, Johnny's saying, let's move on. But I will point out this. Johnny also points out, if this new cut doesn't have the Wonder Twins eye walk, I would like to see an R-rated interpretation of the Wonder Twins. I don't know what that looks like at all.
Mom, a bucket of water.
There you go. Speaking of bucket of water, right? Or maybe more specifically, speaking of water, have you heard about this Comic-Con cruise ship action that's going on with Skybound and Image?
Unfortunately, I have.
Yeah. So Image Comics and Skybound Entertainment are planning a comic convention for a cruise ship. And according to Newsarama, this will take place in either 2022 or 2023. So I don't really understand why if it's going to be that far ahead, the hope would be we'd be past the coronavirus and we wouldn't have to deal with this at all. So I'm not sure if this is because of the coronavirus or this is just something cool that they wanted to do. But according to Newsarama, the two companies have sent out survey emails on some of their listservs to gauge interest, and the plan is for the ship to set sail from Miami or Los Angeles. I got to be honest with you. Comic-Con is already comic conventions in general are already kind of germ farms, and I already have to gauge whether or not I'm going to be interested in going to a convention after coronavirus. Like, how far into the future will I want to start going to conventions again? And then on top of that, I have never ever been a fan of cruise ships. Like, it just seems like hell on earth. I don't know how you feel about it. How you feel about this one, Ashton?
Okay, I have a negative experience with cruise ships. The only time I've ever been on a cruise ship, I left with 6 stitches in my foot. So you can miss me with the cruise ships.
I mean that's a good reason. I mean, like, if you carry that trauma with you, like, I respect that, Ashton. Yeah, it just seems like just being stranded on like a vessel, like, in the middle of the ocean, and like you're kind of limited to these activities, and like, I don't know if I still don't know if I get seasick. Like, I've been on boats, but I don't know what level of seasick I would get if I've been on something for like several hours. But yeah, it just seems like a rough time. I don't know, guys. You let me know in the comments. Would you get on a Comic-Con cruise ship, like, brought to you by Image and Skybound? Because automatically, because of Skybound, the first thing I think of, speaking of Dawn of the Dead, is Walking Dead. And the potential for
no, why would you do that?
And the end of Dawn of the Dead ends up with them getting on a boat, and then like a zombie outbreak happens, and like, I'm just thinking already. My active imagination is already thinking like Walking Dead, cruise ships, like coronavirus somewhere in the future, somewhere that may or may not. It's already mutating, like, you know what I mean. I'm just like, I don't know how I feel about this.
I don't think we need this. Like, regular cons are fine. That's enough. We don't like talk about like the ultimate captive audience. Like, there's nowhere to go.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know about you, but like, after a couple hours in New York, at New York Comic Con, I find myself frequently like going a couple of blocks away to like get food or get a drink or just to like get some air, just because I feel so confined and so close. And I'm not a claustrophobic person, I don't think, but I just feel so confined to that space that it like kind of drives me nuts after a while. So yeah. On a cruise ship, like, was Johnny saying, when you wrap up, ask people watching if they would go on a cruise ship like this. Actually, I just did, so there you go. Never mind.
So we're very prepared today.
There you go. That's okay. We're doing all right. Yeah. So look, no knock to Image and Skybound. Like, maybe it'll be cool, but yeah, let us know in the comments if you guys are interested in a Comic-Con cruise ship. Does it sound like a good bet for you, or are you getting memories of the end of Dawn of the Dead? So how about comics? Let's talk about purely comics, the good stuff, the uncut stuff.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. It's time for What's at Comic Shops. All right, it is Wednesday. It is New Comic Book Day. So that means that new comics have arrived to your local comic shop. And there's some good stuff out this week, some cool stuff out this week. So we're going to talk a little bit about those titles. And then we're going to first, we're going to give you guys our picks. So Ashton, I'm going to let you go first. What is your pick this week off of the New Comics rack?
Yeah, so I'm picking Deep Beyond. It is a new #1 from Image. It's written by Mirka Andolfo, who's kind of on an up and up recently. So this is kind of like a dystopian, futuristic sci-fi disaster comic. So it's set on an underpopulated future Earth. A large portion, the majority of the population has been devastated by what they call the Millennium Bug. So I don't know what that is yet, but I'm super interested. And I'm also seeing tentacles on the cover art, so I'm sure those things are connected. And so the survival of mankind is handled by a really small group of experts and scientists and politicians. And they're trying to figure out kind of how to move forward with this limited capacity of humanity, while at the same time, this limited capacity of humanity finds themselves in these kind of like never-ending, highly divisive feuds about, you name it, any number of weird things. Yeah, literally anything. If you can fight over it, they're fighting over it. So you have all of these different things going on, and it's set on the backdrop of this abyss that nobody knows what it is or where it came from. And so they're trying to figure out what the Millennium Bug is and how to combat that and its impact on the population, the population's own civil war, and then also this abyss. And all of these things are kind of tugging at each other. So if you're into like 100, or you like Death Stranding, or you're just in for like a good monster disaster comic, this is for you. I also couldn't help but notice when I was reading the solicit that it's in addition to being unfortunately kind of similar to our own general life circumstances that people that live in the United States, it's kind of similar to Undiscovered Country. So I guess I have a theme here of things that interest me. And also, if you want to jump on the bandwagon of Undiscovered Country, I saw this, by the way, there's also an image firsts of Undiscovered Country out this week. So if you want to get that #1, that's at your comic shop too. So that is my pick.
All right, cool. Yeah, we've already established you do love the post-apocalypse or the pre-apocalypse stories or like the borderline apocalypse stories.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it's not even about like the apocalypse itself. I mean, that's cool and whatever establishes an apocalypse is fun, but I'm more interested in the commentary about humanity and where we go from there. That I find that interesting because everybody always has a different take on how would we respond and what does that say about us? How cooperative would we be with one another and kind of measuring out if that is true.
Yeah. I'm actually, not to get too sidetracked, but I'm actually reading a comic from Image called Nameless. It's actually by Grant Morrison and Chris Burnham. Huge Grant Morrison fan. And it's doing exactly the same thing. Like there's a meteor that's coming to Earth. It's destined to hit our planet. And there's also some Mayan and biblical aspects to it. But yeah, the seems to be the running theme is what is human? Like that seems to be the running theme of the story. And I'm very curious because I'm probably only about like 4 issues in right now. I'm very curious to find out what is human, at least according to Grant Morrison and Chris Burnham. So my pick this week actually is a book I've picked before in the show. But this is the latest issue and it's part of a new series. So I figured I'd give it a shout out because I kind of missed #1 before. Wrong Earth, Night and Day, #2 from Ahoy Comics. I got to give an apology to Tom Payer. I had an opportunity to interview him years ago, had no idea who he was, interviewed him. He told me all about Ahoy Comics. It sounded really interesting. I decided to give the line a try, and it's turned out to be exactly what this former Vertigo fan actually needed from his comic books. They have a nice line of self-contained, like independent books. They also include pro stories at the end of the story, so you get a little bit more bang for your buck. And with Wrong Earth, they did this really cool thing. I think it's like the only superhero book they have in their line. But the cool thing about Wrong Earth is, imagine what would happen if Adam West's Batman met Ben Affleck's Batman. And all sorts of wackiness ensues. Like this is kind of one of those things where you get it's a crossover within the Ahoy universe, but really it's just very much self-contained to this book or these series of books. And like, you have like the kind of the wacky kind of definitely not cynical superhero character, Dragonfly Man. And then he's come across this kind of dark and gritty version of himself that's kind of walked into his universe. And the story is just kind of unfolding from there. Like their villains are crossing over, and that kind of creates like all sorts of chaos. And it's an interesting, like, I don't even know if I want to call it a commentary. It's just an interesting play on a trope that's been around for like a long time. The crisscrossing of multiverses. And it's allowed to go, because it's not a Marvel or DC book, it's allowed to go in places that I don't think Marvel and DC books would be allowed to go to. So yeah, Tom Payer, shout out to him and his work on Wrong Earth. And also wanted to say apologies to him too, because like apparently I didn't realize he wrote The Authority, which is one of my favorite books back in the day, and I had no idea it was him until years later. So shout out to him as for that too. So hey guys, Hakes Americana, right? The latest auction is going down right now. It's live on Hakes.com. This is actually Hakes auction number 231, I believe. Right? Yeah, 231. Closes out on February 24th and 25th. And we want to show you some of the items that are available to pre-order. I'm so used to saying pre-order. They're available to bid on right now, courtesy of Hakes. So check out this video and explain a little bit more when we get back.
Hakes Auctions is the premier source for all manner of Americana and collectibles, and auction number 231 is now open for bidding. Here are some of the amazing items that you can find over at Hakes.com. Be sure to check out the full auction by visiting Hakes.com. Closing dates for items in auction 231 are February 24th to 25th. Hakes, America's first collectibles auction house.
So yeah, shout out to Hakes. That's going on right now. And I also want to point out, guys, this isn't just like, for like the big ticket, big money items. Like this is for the collecting curious, all the way to the big spenders. Like there's a little bit of something for everybody, including there's a letter from the Birmingham jail that Martin Luther King signed. That is available to bid on, which I think is actually great because it is Black History Month, and you can actually own a piece of Black history that you may not have been a part of. So that's actually really cool. So yeah, definitely check that out. There's more to come. There's also the original Martin Luther King comic that we've actually featured on our website that was released in, I believe, the late 60s. That's available to purchase as well. So Hakes Americana, check it out, Hakes.com. And get a wish list together. Check it out. See what's going on.
Yeah.
Johnny says we got a comment here. So what we got going on here? Stephen Payton, I cannot wait for Baltimore Comic-Con to return. I do any precautions needed, but those moments are some of the my favorite every year. Yeah, actually, I don't know about you. I don't know if you've done a lot of Baltimore Comic-Con. I know you've done New York. I know you do San Diego every year. But I feel like Baltimore is always a nice wind down after like a big stretch of like, after I think the last couple of years it's been after New York, I want to say. So it's usually like San Diego, New York, Baltimore. So yeah, I'm with you on that, Peyton. Like that's actually a good deal. Also, I wanted to point out something that I saw this week. That I thought was pretty cool. You actually brought it to my attention. I actually did not find out about this announcement. You actually told me about it. The Wakanda series from Disney Plus. We were talking a lot about like, there's a lot of TV, a lot going on, but I'm curious about this because basically Disney Plus just signed a multi-year deal with Ryan Coogler, the director of the Black Panther, and more importantly for me, the director of Creed, because I love Creed. And he signed with the Walt Disney Company. And it will include television projects in the future. And Coogler previously directed and co-wrote the hit Marvel film Black Panther, which takes place in the fictional African nation of Wakanda, which is funny because some people don't realize it is fictional. And Coogler is currently working on the film sequel. So one of the things we found out when not Ryan Coogler, when Chadwick Boseman passed away, was that they were going to shift the focus to the people of Wakanda, right?
Yeah.
That was kind of like one of the things we were talking about. So I'm curious to see if this is going to be sort of like a lead-in to that second Black Panther movie to kind of get people comfortable with the idea. So, and like, we already know there's a World of Wakanda book. Marvel did a bunch of like really great spinoffs around the time of the first movie. So yeah. Interesting. I'm curious about the Dora Milaje. I'm curious about M'Baku's like tribe. Like, I want to find out more about those characters and how the movies are going to present those characters. So I think that'll be cool.
Yeah, and what you were just saying, like, just to interject this really quickly, like, I think Black Panther does a good job of actually kind of like setting up some of the things you would want to know more about, and it kind of almost like lobs up this series in a way that probably was unintentional. Knowing Marvel might have also been intentional. But yeah, I think it does it can work as a nice transition piece, to go from like, here are the things we showed you in Black Panther that you kind of want to know about. Here's what you know about them more. And then by the time you get to the second movie, you're already like in that world that the weight of Chadwick Boseman's absence probably won't be quite so hefty by then.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's just so much to explore, right? And I mean, the concept of a isolated African nation, like people have tried to conquer them in the past, like, and how did they push back, like, these would-be colonizers, you know what I mean? Like, how did they, like, let's hear that story. Let's find out more about his mom. Like, let's find out more about Suri. Like, let's find out more about all those characters. So yeah, there's big opportunity there. And I'm actually glad I'm sure that they were thinking about this before Chadwick Boseman passed. I'm always curious whether or not they actually knew that he was like, going to pass away. I'm always curious about that. Like if even though they signed him to this multi-film deal, they always kind of had this thing like, well, we know that like, this is terminal or whatever, so we're going to do everything we can to make this like a big moment. But like at the same time, like I wonder if they were always preparing for his absence in the long run. So yeah, really interesting. Like, and looking forward to that. Back to comics this week. There's a new book called Fear Case. It's available from Dark Horse Comics this week. It's brought to you by Matt Kent. I always struggle with that name. Is it Matt Kent or Matt Kint? I don't know. And Tyler Jenkins. So we're going to show you guys a trailer for that, and then we come back. We'll talk a little bit more about it. Check it out.
This case goes back generations. Every agent who's tried to solve it has crashed and burned. The case is actually a case, or a box. A box so valuable that wars have been fought over it. Countless people have been murdered to obtain it. Everywhere it goes, death and destruction follow. If you have the case, you must give it to the person you hate the most. Otherwise, the person you love the most will take possession. If you open it, you die. You have 3 days.
And that is Fear Case, and that's available at your local comic shop officially today. That is from Matt Kent, who's behind Ether, and mine MGMT, and Tyler Jenkins, who's behind Grass Kings. Very interesting. I think it's kind of cool. Like, kind of gives me some soft Ring vibes, like this thing that you have to pass on to other people to kind of alleviate like responsibility for it. So yeah, definitely check that out. That's from Dark Horse Comics this week. Ashton, last week we were talking a lot about the Bernie Sanders memes, right?
Oh yeah.
And I joked last week. I said, I keep, when I think it's not going to be funny anymore, someone locks in something that I think is absolutely hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
So and I thought we were done with this. Like, I thought, like, okay, it's been like what, 2 weeks of this now?
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was over. And then I saw the Akira tribute, like, which I think is so this is the original Akira poster, right? For those of you not familiar, many artists have like done their visual interpretation of it like over the years, and like check out what someone did recently. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. I just thought that was the most clever thing in the world. Like, so perfect. So I just had to share that one. That was
awesome. Do you know what? I'm so glad you like didn't show me ahead of time so that I could
didn't want to
have like a real-time reaction. That is so brilliant.
That is good. That was really good. I absolutely love that. Also, I saw a lot of cool artwork this weekend, actually. I also saw a Daniel Acuna cover for Marvel #4, which I absolutely loved. I mean, I don't even think like seeing it on screen probably doesn't even do it justice. But like, I love this. Daniel Acuna, he's one of those guys. He's been a Marvel guy for quite a few years. He's done some work with done a lot of work with Rick Remender and a bunch of other writers. But this story takes place apparently in this alternate reality that's kind of like a post-apocalyptic hellscape. And I just love that the He-Man-ness of Captain America. I'm assuming that's Luke Cage on the left-hand side. Like, I just love that. And apparently it's was a variant cover for #4, which is a shame. It should have been the main cover. But inside #4 is a little short story about exactly this concept, which I thought was absolutely cool. So I had to share that. Like, I'm going to search that book, find that book, and hunt it down. I want to know what's going on inside of it. Ready for, what's this? Anton reminds me of the Twilight Zone stories in the 1980s. He's talking about Fear Case. If you're talking about Fear Case, yeah.
Oh, it does.
Yeah. I'm down with that. I think that's actually pretty cool. All right. So you ready for a little social swap, Ashton?
Heck yeah. I'm always ready.
All right. Ashton's going to take over, and she's going to, show us your nerd credentials. How about that? Let's go.
So lately there's been this trend going around social media to tell us you're this thing without actually telling us you're this thing. So prove it. So we asked you guys to tell us you're a nerd without just telling us you're a nerd. So it could be like choices here, quote a character, show us a tattoo, show us your bookcase, anything. So we're going to go through your nerd credentials right now and then share some of our own. Paul says my back issues give me back issues.
As someone who just recently moved his collection, and is trying to like organize it. Yes, I totally understand what you mean.
That's amazing. William says, I swear by my pretty floral bonnet, I will end you.
It's a Firefly reference. Respect.
Oh, wow. Jamie is, I'm assuming this is I don't know. Jamie has left us a photo of dice, all of their die.
Yeah, a little tabletop gaming.
C-List Villains podcast has left this insane Transformers tattoo.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh, Tony leaves a picture of her child, I would say, in a Batman costume. Or Robin, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Also, a shout out to his name apparently is Grayson.
Oh, I didn't even catch that because I was so worried about the picture. How perfect.
Yeah, so perfect, right? He's adorable. Thank you, Tony, for sharing that.
And Corinne shares a photo of her dog. Any guesses on his name?
I'm assuming Sirius. Is that the right character, right? Sirius Black?
I'm not a Harry Potter person.
Yes, Troy, that would be the right character. Sirius
Black. Okay, that is Sirius Black. Thank you, Johnny. Thank you.
Played by Gary Oldman in the movies.
Yep.
We could sit here all day and I would never know.
Back to our regularly scheduled program.
Thank you,
Chris has left this panorama picture of his living room, which is insane.
Yeah,
nerd cave.
Yeah, you might have to go full screen on this to really get all the details. But yeah, he's living the dream over there.
Dale says, me? Sure, doctor. Can you make the appointment for any day but Wednesday? Wednesdays are booked up.
Respect. Thank you, Dale.
I respect the pun. I'm here for it. Janet left this picture of her and her fiance cosplaying, which is iconic.
Right.
And Garrett says, I collect molds, spores, and fungus.
That one's for Johnny. That's a Ghostbuster reference.
Thank you very much.
Marieke, I can barely see her name.
No, it's Marieke.
Marieke watches the show all the time, so I don't want to.
I'm sorry for butchering your name, love. I can't. I feel like the print is really small.
Yeah, it's Marika.
Marika, hi. All right, that's such a pretty name. She's left a picture of this cookbook that's all hero food, which is amazing.
All right, cool. So, Ashton, I don't know if you prepared for that. We didn't even talk about this. Are you prepared to show your geek credentials?
I am. I have my friends that help me do work every day.
Okay. Now you got like an assist. All right, nice. I love that.
My assistants.
I love the Jughead and the BB-8. I was expecting you to pull out an Archie, and then like you threw out a Swerve. I love it. That Jughead, that Pop Jughead is like surprisingly like detailed for a Funko Pop.
And he's got like a burger and a milkshake from Pop.
Yeah, too. I love that. You know, I've said before, Jughead is my favorite Archie character, and I know he's your absolute favorite, so I respect that.
He's so relatable. Like, I mean, I know you've said before too that like from a guy's perspective, he's relatable because he's like, ew, girls are gross, but just like he spends all of his time eating and making sassy comments that aren't helpful to the situation.
Right. He's just like, he's always the peanut gallery. Like that's always what is there for do. And it's actually great. It's actually fantastic. I think it works even better. We did that episode of The Hunger. We did the episode, the panel with where we reviewed The Hunger and Vampironica. And one of the things I loved about that book actually was that like when Jughead gets scared, you know things are getting real. Like
he's like any other time he's like, this is crap, I'm not in the mood.
Right, yeah. Like when Jughead is concerned, everyone should be concerned. I absolutely love that. So actually this past week, showing my nerd credentials, I got this really cool comic book cabinet from this place called Urban Timber, and I've been waiting for it to arrive for months because it had to be built, and it had to and then of course it had to be shipped, and of course everything's being mailed very slowly these days, but it finally came in, and it gave me the excuse to put together my office space. Finally, my office space was finally complete, and so I shared this the other day on my Facebook page and my Instagram, and like, yeah, I'm a happy nerd, fat kid on cake. Like this is me right now. I am this is fat kid heaven for me. Like I went out of my way to go for the black and white theme. Yeah. And and just for the sake of the picture, I made sure to find the only white record I have, which is actually Jean Grey and Quell's Everything Is Fine. I got the Judge Dredd. I got some artwork from a few comics I've worked on with artist Matt Rawson. And actually, I'm glad, Johnny, I was going to ask you, and I was going to put you on the spot. Do you have? I know you do. Of course you do. First of all, I want to ask you about this shirt. What is this shirt right here?
Oh, it's just expressions of Vader: angry, happy, sad.
So that alone would be total geek cred. But do you want to show us something else? In the background.
Funkos.
Okay, I see. I can't really see him on our screen that well.
The one thing I do want to show though is I'm just going to say 2 words: don't blink.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
How have I never seen that before, Johnny?
I don't know, because I don't really go around like pulling my sleeves up for people that I work with in the office, because I might get sent to HR for something like that.
Well, wait a minute. Why have I seen it before then?
What?
Mm-hmm. I hope Fran's watching this.
I do. Actually, I always take that back. There is one more thing I'd like to share. This is a recent acquisition of mine. It is my Gigawatt DeLorean Transformer.
Oh, you got it. Oh, I'm very jealous of this.
I did.
So cool.
And he is amazing. And the thing I love about this is like the old school Transformers that actually, you have to kind of think about it, and it looks like a robot and it looks like a car. It's not like, when it transforms into a robot, it's got elements that would still make it look like whatever. It's like, they're very distinct, and like the amount of steps that you go through reminds me of the old school G1 Transformers. So
yeah, that's
I'm
cool.
not going to take the time to actually sit here and transform it on live.
No, I mean, those old school Transformers made you put in work. Like they made you think about, like, how do I put this together and how do I get it back together? And I'm more than certain that one of the reasons Troy didn't have a lot of Transformers as a kid, because I would break them trying to transform them. So,
and yes, I bought one to open and one to keep in the box.
Oh, okay, all right. No, never removed from box. I like it.
Hey, NRFB. Are you a Dexter's Lab fan? Is that what you're quoting?
Is that what it is? Yeah, it's Dexter's Lab, right?
It's Dexter's Lab. It's the episode where they go to like they think they're going to a sci-fi convention and they end up in like Barbie convention. Or something like that, and there's all kinds of collectibles all over the wall. And one of like Dexter's little friends, who's playing like a Star Trek cadet, goes over and sees like this Barbie like mint in box, and says, "It seems that she is in some kind of cryostasis. I must release her." Rip. Everyone in the convention just looks at her. It's like, NRFB, never removed from box.
Actually, speaking of Barbies, Ashton, you have admitted on the show before that you have like a small Barbie collection on top of that, right?
I do, yeah. They're all downstairs and packed up. So I was like, I did not want to dig them out and get them all out. But I have about 25 of them. They're all still in their boxes. And a lot of them are like collector's editions. So I don't know that they still do this, but Mattel used to every year release a collector's edition Barbie specifically around the holidays, like for people that collected them. So I have a lot of those. And then any year that they didn't release a collector's edition, I have one that's just like whatever the popular Barbie was that year. So like the year Barbie of Swan Lake came out, like I have her. They did like a Carnival series one year. So I have a Carnival Barbie. I'm very proud of them.
That's pretty cool. Okay. It was a mystical green bean. Hey, what's up, Joaquin? Johnny has won the segment.
Yes.
Crushed it.
I'd like to thank everyone for making this possible. I couldn't have done it without Troy and Ashton. You've been my rock throughout all this. As your producer, I'd like to say thank you. I love you all. Thank you. Thank you.
I live for that level of drama.
There you go. That was thank you for thanking the little people, Johnny.
Also, thank you for bringing up Dexter's Lab, because occasionally I like reference an old cartoon and get like weird looks about it. And then I'm like, I swear this thing existed, but then like no one knows what I'm talking about. Like, it happens a lot with Doug. Whenever I bring up Doug and I'm like, the friend was blue, people are like, what are you talking about?
Really? You are traveling in the wrong circles in, Ashton, because
I know.
I was too old for Doug. And like, I've been seeing so many Doug memes over the last year and a half on my timeline. I thought it was like a generation gap, but apparently like people loved maybe I wasn't too old for Doug. I don't remember when that came out. Now that I think about it.
His sister was a jerk, though, and she was French for no reason at all.
So these are things I don't remember. I do remember his friend was blue, though, so you're absolutely right about that. Actually, so, all right, moving forward. Do we have a weekly poll this week, Ashton?
We do have a weekly poll.
Okay.
So there's a bit of a snowstorm, nor'easter situation going on in the eastern part of the U.S. this week. So I asked you guys to tell us if heroic ice would prevail over villainous ice. In other words, who would win between Frozone and Mr. Freeze in a battle?
Awesome. All right, let's bring Johnny back in here. Well, first of all, let's talk this out real quick. So, Ashton, if you had to make a choice, who would you choose?
Do you know what? I like Frozone. I don't know that Frozone is more powerful than Mr. Freeze. I think he probably is not, but I think he's so hilarious that just from like a sheer enjoyment aspect of like the commentary that would take place during this battle, I would have to pick Frozone.
Despite the fact that it's Samuel L. Jackson, because you're unreasonable for Samuel L. Jackson. I just had to throw that in your face because that is one of the weirdest things I know about you, Ashton. And like I don't quite know how I feel about it. I judged you a little bit based off of that one little fact.
That's fine, but we don't need Samuel L. Jackson in every movie ever. It'll be okay if he takes a break.
Yes,
no, he's getting up there. He should probably chill.
He is a national treasure.
He's something.
That's Nicolas Cage, Johnny, not Samuel Jackson.
My mistake. Tonight, I was way off.
I was way off. I'm going to go with Mr. Freeze on this one, just because I feel like he's willing to go the distance and do things that Frozone's not willing to do. But what about you, Johnny?
I'm going to have to go with Ashton and go with Frozone on this because I think I love the interaction. I think would be just hilarious to overhear him like what he's doing. Like ultimately, who is Frozone's main mortal enemy except his wife?
His wife, right? I was about to say. No, that is absolutely accurate. Like his wife is definitely his mortal enemy.
All right, so I'm going to go Frozone. So, but we have everyone else voting as Mr. Freeze, 54 to 46%.
That's actually pretty tough.
Still pretty close though, but only with still 3 days left in the poll. So
there you go. All right, guys,
so
keep
it
coming.
Swing to vote. Get on Free Comic Book Day and vote.
Yeah. Like baby, it's cold outside, but it's I don't know where I was going with that. Whatever. Anyway. It was all right. I was lobbing something up, and then I was like, I don't even know what the conclusion of that is. So I'm just gonna own the fact that I have no idea where it's going. No idea. Anyway, comic shop shout out, Ashton. Who do you got this week?
This week's comic shop shout out goes to LA Mood Comics in London, Ontario, Canada, and it comes from Brian Garside. And if you want us to shout out your comic book shop on the show, find us on social media at PREVIEWsworld and tag your shop if they have a handle. If they don't, just leave their name. And also use the hashtag #SupportYourLCS, and we will find your post. We will shout them out on the show and give them some love.
All right. They need some love, so be sure to do the shout out. Let us know what's going on in your neck of the woods and with your local comic shop. And I think that's about it for us. I want to remind people to like, share, and subscribe as always. Join us here like every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. And also be sure to check out the Hakes auction. It's going until the end of February. So definitely keep an eye on that. And who knows, you might get something super valuable and super rare.
Yeah.
So it's it's all up to you. But definitely check that out. This week, actually, I want to let people know on PREVIEWsworld.com tomorrow, I have an interview with the editor of My Hero Academia team up missions, which is like a big deal for us because we're trying to focus more, trying to bring some more focus to the manga side of the world, right? I saw there's an article that's been floating around lately that adult graphic novels saw a huge surge last year, which is heartening, actually. I think that's actually really cool. Everybody uses images of My Hero Academia, which I'm not sure if I would consider an adult graphic novel, but either way, it's kind of like YA, I kind of feel. But definitely check that out because manga falls in that category. Mangas are also graphic novels, and your local comic shop carries them. And My Hero Academia team up missions is something that's coming your way in the next month or so. So definitely check out that interview and find out more about it, especially if you're an MHA fan. And on that note, I guess that's it for Previews World Weekly, guys. I've been one of your hosts, Troy Jeffrey Allen.
I've been your other host, Ashton Greenwood.
And guess what? We'll see you guys at the Spinner Rack. We'll catch you next week.
Don't forget that you can catch Previews World Weekly streaming live every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific at Previews World on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch.